All right, welcome back. It's Monday Night Live, the original Great Turtles Ravens Rap Show from the original 116th at Coastal Highway in North Ocean City. Ravens News 44. Mike Bradley, Brian McFarland, 5-2. 30-16 win over the Seattle Seahawks. And we've been talking really the intricacies of the team and transactions and movements here because Brian is a capologist. So it's really interesting to get all this information. I got to ask you, how did you get involved in figuring out the cap and knowing all this? Because the NFL pays people top dollar for this. How did you get involved in all this?
I'm really not good with numbers, to be honest with you. Thanks to spreadsheets and things like that, I'm okay. But I started in 2002 when they had the big purge. And to be honest with you, the Baltimore Sun could not explain it. They just said they had to cut 11 guys because of the salary cap. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? So I started paying attention to it, and there's a little network of every team. Most every team has a guy like me, and we work with each other and help each other out. And now there are a couple websites out there. Over the Cap is the best one for league-wide cap space and cap numbers and contract numbers. So I just started that way, and in about 2006, Tony somehow heard of me and said, hey, come write for me, and I'm now his longest termed writer.
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
I've been there the longest, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hey, you've got an outlet that doesn't explain it very well. You get curious. I've been there before, and then you delve in, and then you become an expert on it. I think that's really cool. And, this has a ton to do. I mean, we've had Steve Bisciotti here, and he's talking about, they're constantly thinking about the implications of these numbers on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and so many rules, too.
You got to draft. There's three things. You got to draft them, you got to coach them, and you got to play with the numbers because you can't keep everybody, as we've seen over the years.
Now, the trade with Marcus Peters, you give up Kenny Young. The fifth-round pick, initially I had heard or thought that it was the fifth-round pick from the Kari Vedvik deal where we traded him to Minnesota back during the summertime, which was a steal.
Yes.
Tony later said it wasn't that fifth-round pick. It was another fifth-round pick. Does it really matter?
Well, the Vikings are obviously playing well right now, and we're playing well. So,
with the fifth-round picks, do we have two fifth-round picks next year?
We do.
Okay.
So we have those two, and, they're going to probably be pretty close. I don't think either of us are going to just fall apart. Sometimes they make those deals, and it's the higher, they agree it's the higher or the lower of the two. But it sounds like in this case it is the Ravens pick, which obviously the Ravens feel
whatever it initially was.
Right. Well, wherever it will be next
wherever
year.
It'll be,
wherever it'll be, and they're hedging the bets that they're going to have a better record than Minnesota is. And right now Minnesota's playing pretty well. So
and that's how all that goes on the slotting.
Yeah.
Right?
So that.
Okay. All right. So that's the deal on that as you kind of take a look. Now, if Peters though, and here's the interesting thing. If Peters ends up signing with another team, we get a comp pick for that.
Well, depending upon how many you sign, and the comp pick formula
or potentially
get a
comp pick.
Yeah. Okay. So he will certainly. I don't know if it'll be a third-round pick, but I would certainly think it would be a fourth-round back, and they've been very careful over the years to protect those picks. They've always. Not this past year so much, but they've always signed because if any guy that's released by the prior team, they don't count towards the comp picks. It has to be a true free agent, a guy whose contract is run out. Okay. So when they were signing guys like Mason and those types of players, Samari Rolle was the same thing. The Titans had cut both of them. So they signed those guys. So they were purposely signing those guys. And in those years, we would have 4 comp picks. So they were purposely signing guys who wouldn't qualify for the comp pick formula. Now, when they went out and signed Earl Thomas, he qualified. So they actually had a third-round pick. So they had Mosley and Zadarius Smith as third-round losses. But when they signed Thomas, they lost one of those, and they still have the other. But they purposely went out and made sure they didn't sign another big-name, big-money free agent in order to protect that third-rounder, because the third-rounder really matters.
And this is all about the NFL and the parity. These comp picks, this formula, it's all in place to be able to help teams out who lost players to free agency. And maybe you're looking at a team that, there's a floor that every team has to spend in the league with the salary cap, but it doesn't mean they have to spend $1 more than that floor. No. And so it helps them, if they do a good job at drafting, it helps them make up for those losses to teams that are willing to spend more or just better at what they do, I guess.
Yeah, one of the amazing things is a team that could really use comp picks and has never taken advantage of them, the Cleveland Browns. Since the Ravens have been in the league, they've had the fewest comp picks, which makes no sense. Of course, they can't draft anyway until more recently.
Right.
So I guess it didn't matter.
Although now, maybe that quarterback is a little questionable with Baker Mayfield.
True too.
We'll
that's
see.
true too.
Yeah, interesting. Now, I'm curious. I know we're just into the first year, half a year with Eric DeCosta, but you followed this. Differences that you could tell already between, if any, between DeCosta and Ozzie Newsome.
DeCosta seems like he's going to be more aggressive. Not that Ozzie wasn't per se.
Aggressive how?
Well,
Exactly.
Marcus Peters. I mean, I think that's a trade. I don't know that Ozzie makes that trade. Ozzie had this way of he was going to sign guys, but it was going to be at his number, so to speak. He wasn't going to overextend too much. And sometimes I don't think.
But was that deal overextended?
No, I mean, you're bringing in a guy. You took your cap space to $8 million down to $2 million, which means you're gonna have to restructure a
I
deal.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
Now again,
but that's a big fill though.
Well, and it is,
Yeah.
and DeCosta has the luxury of having $60 million next year, whereas Ozzie didn't over the years.
That's all true.
And part of that is maybe Ozzie's fault too, overextending on some. Ozzie wanted to re-sign his own guys all the time, and we never cut draft picks. Again, we never cut draft picks before the fourth year.
Yeah.
Already we've seen that, you know. So and the deals this year are flatter, and again, that some of this is because they have the cap space, they can do it. But they would sign. I mean, Flacco's first and second deal were horrible. I mean, from a cap standpoint, were horrible. Haloti Ngata's deal was horrible from a cap standpoint. That's why they had to trade him, because they couldn't get a contract extension with him, and they had to trade him because they needed that cap space. There's a way of structuring flatter deals that at the end of that deal, you can restructure it if you want and create cap space. You don't have to if you don't need to, and you don't have to trade the guy because you need that cap space. So there's just different ways of doing it. Most teams have done this, and I mean the Ravens have always spent to the cap, so no complaints there.
Mm-hmm.
But they've always been tight against the cap, which forced them to have contracts that had really low cap numbers in the early years and really, really high cap numbers in the back years, and that always created problems.
Well, and certainly as well, when they've not had some good drafts, especially early on, they've had to fill those with free agents and spend cap money that might have been there to spend on some other guys in the next year that you had sitting around. They never had any money sitting around.
Absolutely. I mean, the classic example of that is Matt Elam and the third-round safety they picked the next year.
Out of Florida State.
Right.
I want to say Jackson, but it's not Jackson. But I know.
Right. So they were supposed to be their safety. So what happened? They signed Weddle. They signed Jefferson. They signed Earl Thomas, and that is
back in the day. Michael Huff, remember?
Right. Well, they brought him in.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully he didn't cost much like the other three. But those are three guys. Those were three top of the market safety deals that they had to cover up for the drafting. Now they seem to, over the last 2, maybe 3 years now, they seem to have drafted better. So that's a good sign, because now they're back to their old day, a little more back to the old days of being able to, because that's your cheap labor. You need your draft picks to come through, because I mean, it's like Lamar. I mean, you don't have to spend $10 million a year on a quarterback, $20 million a year when he's a rookie.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you, current makeup of the team, and I know there's a lot of players, but do your best. Best contract right now, where the Ravens did a good job in the structure of the contract, and right now the worst.
Well, the worst is probably Brandon Williams, and I'm not a big. I mean, that contract didn't bother me when it was first signed, but they've restructured it 3 times. Jefferson's the same, so they're kind of the same thing, and they had to, So they did what they did, but right now, when you look at, Brandon Williams got a lot of pressure on him. He was in Wilson's face yesterday, and you don't see that often. So maybe all of a sudden, maybe some light bulb went on. We can only hope, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's a run stuffer, and run stuffers don't get paid that much. But that's been the Ravens' way of stop the run. So they signed him. The best contract on it is Lamar's, to be honest with you, because they have him for 3 more years. And there was a key when they drafted him. They moved up to the last pick of the first round.
Right.
First round, all rookie contracts outside of the first round are 4-year deals. First round, you have what's called a 5th-year option. That 5th year will be $18 million, but he's under contract. You don't have to go to $25 or $30 million.
That's generally reasonable, actually.
Which that's what the franchise tag will be by that time. So that was a key. And they probably could have moved up to the 33rd or 34th pick and still gotten him. but by going up that far, getting into that first round, so that's why that's easily the best contract right now.
And you said first rounders have a fifth-year
option.
Fifth-year option.
Right.
Okay.
So that's key.
Okay. Before we go to a timeout, real quickly, is the rumor true, because he just retired as a Raven? The rumor for years was that Anquan Boldin got away because of the difference of $1 million. Is that true?
I don't know that that's totally true. They clearly wanted him to take a pay cut. And, you know, like I said, when Ozzie's got his number, and you don't go beyond that.
So it sounds like that could be true.
It could be. I have no firsthand knowledge of that.
Yeah.
I thought it was more like 2, which still doesn't seem like a lot, but I know Boldin had a great playoff run, but what did he have? 900 yards that season, which was still tops on the team.
But yeah.
You know, but he never had 1,000 yards as a Raven. So it wasn't like he. But on that team,
just throwing the damn ball.
And that play, yeah, well, that's true.
That's
that playoffs, you know, he and Flacco were on fire.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I've got an opinion about Lamar Jackson. I'm going to throw out there to you. We'll get your take next. Great stuff. The Capologist, Brian McFarland of Russell Street Report with us, giving us a ton of great information about the team and the cap and moves and all that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, get that can of beer, bottle of beer, and we'll be right back.
Let's sit down to my favorite bar. I'm rocking full 20, won't give so far. The Green Turtle gonna have some.
Welcome to the original Green Turtle in Ocean City, a neighborhood favorite with a mouth-watering menu, the best bar in town, a huge game room, plus the apparel and gift shop. There's nothing like the original Green Turtle in Ocean City.
Let's sit down to the turtle again tonight. Yeah.
Welcome to the Comfort Inn Gold Coast. Conveniently located just 1 block from the beach and adjacent to shopping at the Gold Coast Mall and the movie theater. Newly renovated and open year-round with a marvelous bayfront view. Visit us on the web at comfortgoldcoast.com and see our hot deals and great golf packages, or simply call our direct reservation line to plan your stay.
Ocean City, Maryland is the hottest golf destination on the East Coast, and it's just a short drive away. With 17 championship golf courses designed by legends of the game, greats like Jack Nicklaus, Robert Trent Jones, Arthur Hills, and Pete Dye have changed the coastal landscape here. When you pair coastal golf with exciting nightlife, excellent dining, 10 miles of white sandy beach, and a world-famous boardwalk, it's no wonder why great golf is just the beginning in Ocean City, Maryland. Plan and book your next golf getaway today by visiting oceancitygolf.com or by calling 800-4OC-GOLF.